Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Is my mic okay? Is it loud enough? Is it terrible? Greetings. Yeah, it's good. Bit all over the place tonight. Trying to get all my stuff going on. Oh, okay, where are we at? I'll move all this junk out of the way so I don't knock it over when I'm flailing my hands around. Loud and clear. So, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. I think I'm pretty much sorted out now. Hello! So, good evening, Archbishop, Gombos, Bitwise, Sysop, and Civilized. Thanks for joining in on stream. If you're out there, be sure to say hello. T. Most important thing of the day, tea. As I mentioned on Discord earlier on, tonight is the Gyokuro, which I haven't had today, which is unlike me. Usually I smash a litre of this in the morning. Not today. Glorious. And, for the first time in quite some time, we're back to the 95%. So, hopefully you guys have got some chocolate to go with it. Hello, Gonathu. Welcome back. It's nice to see you again. Let's grab one of these while you guys get yourselves all lined up with your beverages. I have missed the 95%, that's for sure. Very tasty. So, had a bit of a win on the last stream, and at this point I'm not exactly sure what we're going to focus on. I'm going to wing it a little bit because we're still sort of pushing to get to MVP point, right? So what is it that's going to get us over the line? Now I think what we probably need to invest a bit of time in, which I'm not necessarily looking forward to, yeah, get system. That's coming. That's definitely coming. I think in order to get to MVP, we have to be able to do the right things with thread impersonation and come up with a design for how that might work, because that affects channels. Sorry, it affects processes. It affects processes. And we also need to do something with get system. Anyway. So that's probably what we'll play around with. As always, if you have any questions as we go, feel free to reach out and ask. Can anyone recognize this? Shout out to the KiwiCon folks, keeping me warm now that I'm actually starting to feel that there's a winter going on here. Yeah, it's my KiwiCon hoodie. Yeah, this hoodie is so good. It's really warm too, which is awesome. Okay, alright, let's pop myself up into the corner. There we go. Let me know if the music's too loud, by the way. Alright. Now, what I was thinking before too was I was nosing around here and looking at the desktop and the session flags, and I was having a think about where I see those flags happening elsewhere in the actual code. And I can't think of a place where they're actually used. But anyway, what's clear now is because we've got most of this channelization stuff sorted out, we can probably start ditching these things. The only problem that I've got is we need to make sure that we handle this. So this create suspended thing. Now create suspended tends to be used when we're doing stuff like process hollowing. So I'm not sure what we're going to do there, but have a squiz at this. But this is another thing that we need to support, right? We need to be able to handle spoofing of the parent PID. Yeah. Still on the fail background. Yes, I know, but I kind of like Nelson. Nelson's kind of nice having pointing over my shoulder and reminding me about how bad I can be. Hey Tom, how you going? I'll come up with something for the next stream. Next stream we may even go and do some CTF stuff again for a bit. Just to mix it up. What's news, Tom? This is interesting, isn't it? Okay, so clearly behind the scenes when we're doing parent PID spoofing, we need to do something. Yeah, okay. Yeah, see, now this is annoying. There's so much stuff here that isn't going to be exposed through the .NET APIs. Look at this. Available on 2003 Vista 2008 7 create processors. User seems to be just balked on some systems. Imho. I remember seeing that, but I certainly didn't write it. As you can see, like, there are so many edge cases that you have to handle. Maybe I'll leave this be for now. We'll come back to it once we've got some other bits and pieces done. Because when we look at things like the Python extension, sorry, the Python implementation running on Windows, it doesn't do stuff like this from what I can tell. What does the session stuff actually do? Right, that's about creating processes in a different session. Session ID. Yeah. So that's looping through and creating process as the user within the given session. So again, I don't think we'll worry too much about this at this point either. Doing memory. Yeah, here we go. In memory execution, unmap dummy executable and map the new exe into the target process. Yeah, here we go. So that's the doing the process hollowing thing, which we're not going to implement just yet. Chronic D. Man, that's a name I have not seen for quite a while. How are you, mate? Chronic D. Whew, man, the tea is starting to warm me up. I'm actually getting hot. Look, I can't say something funny just off the cuff like that. I have to warm up. I have to sort of, let the context build and then bam. You still working in, what is it, Erlang or Elixir and all that sort of stuff, mate? Because that's where you headed off to, hey? Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that stuff there and we'll come back to it and we'll just handle the fact that we'll worry about the fact that we're not doing any impersonation later on, because I do think that dealing with things using the classic sort of process class is going to be a real pain in the butt. So I'm more interested now in looking at other bits and pieces and making sure that the base functionality is in play as we move towards MVP. So one thing that I do want to check right now is that the download mechanism works using recursion. So let's have a quick squiz at that. Hey Wilbatross, how's it going? Oh, you're at NCC, really? You are not alone. There are some other NCC lurkers, I believe, on stream. Yeah, I didn't realize that, man. Pretty chill, 100% remote. Doing good. That's good to hear, man. Glad to hear you're okay. It's crazy time that we live in. Crazy time. Okay, let's just quickly kick this off. Make sure that we still get a session. I had to adjust the IP address again. Okay, so that still works. Well, but I'm doing great, thanks, mate. Living the dream. I got my tea. I've had a piece of chocolate. Doesn't really get much better than that, hey? Okay, so if we look at the help for download, can see we can specify a recursive flag. Okay, so let's see if we can recursively download the debug folder. Actually, before we do that, let's go LCD temp. Make sure that we're in a temp location so we don't have to care. A second piece of chocolate could make it better. Well, I've actually just snuck another one in while I was talking, so I've already had two, not gonna lie. Tell you what though, that tea is magic. Alright, let's go download recursive debug. Ooh, something failed. I reckon the reason that failed is because it's locked. What do you reckon? CD debug. I reckon it's because it's locked. Rasta! And he subscribed again. You are a champion. Thank you very much for your support, Rasta. How are you, buddy? It looks like that was correct. Hey, let's have a squiz up here. That was the 3872. Yeah. Looks legit to me. So the recursive bit actually worked. Actually, let's go up another one. And we'll download -r, the bin folder. There you go. So the only thing that is the PDB, which is locked. So, but that's fine. So that's ls-lar. Yeah. I haven't got anything in the release folder, but it seems to have done its job. Hey, you are A-OK. That's good to hear, man. I forgot to do the live tweet thing, but I've got a button. Show you. Might not be able to get it up in front of the camera. There's a button just there. I can press that button and it tweets for me. How cool is modern technology? That's what I use my Stream Deck for, is tweeting. Okay. Alright, so I'm happy about that. So clearly the downloading related stuff is behaving as expected. You'll notice here, see this adaptive download? So you can actually type download -a -r bin. Ooh. You have to give it a size. Let's say 1024 bytes. Clearly that's not doing what I would expect it to do. So the reason why this is here, this is definitely an issue with our CLR Meterpreter, so this is something that we can fix. So adaptive is where you're in that scenario where you've got a really high latency environment and getting packets in is really, really slow. So you might want to actually download things in chunks. So maybe what you need to do is, maybe it's -b, is that it? So -a says start at a certain size, and if after a period of time it keeps timing out, you reduce the size of the chunk that you want to download, and it keeps reducing it until it gets to a point where it can actually get some packets out, and then it continues to download using that size. Anyway, clearly something's going on here. This CS calling standard API FSLS. So let's quickly shove a breakpoint on the FSLS. I just need to find a way of opening it because I can't see the Solution Explorer. Here we go. So that'll be under File System, Standard API List Entries. So I wonder why it can't do this. I love this song. Alright, so what happens here? We do end up in here, and for each entry... Ooh! What is going on here? Could not find part of the path C code Meterpreter test console. Ah, isn't that funny? Oh shit, I pressed the wrong button. So for some reason, this dash B, oh, I've put a B at the end, and that's the reason why it's not happy. Let's make sure we're still in temp. We'll go CD PWD. Alright, so if we do the download without that should actually do what we would expect it to do, right? It's a bit better. A lot more stuff actually functioning correctly there. Okay, so because we've got a TCP connection here and we don't have a high latency environment, it's not going to have any problems pulling packets down. You like the new font? Just the cool... Yeah, I know. I actually quite like it too. It's got the... It's able to sort of merge symbols together. Yeah, but I don't think there's anything particularly special about the way this is behaving. Like we have the ability to list files and we have the ability to download files, and it looks like it's going to do all of the things. Yeah, you know, those ligatures used to stress me out too, but I actually kind of like them now. Okay, so like I said, we're just going to do a bit of validation to make sure the things that we're doing actually behave themselves. So let's just quickly go through and have a squiz. Close. See, the Unicode encoding thing is something that you used to be able to toggle on and off, and for this we don't need to because we support it out of the box whether you like it or not. What does get timeouts do? Okay, we did implement that. That's good. Good. Tells us the session good. IRB load machine ID. We did finish implementing that, didn't we? Or have we got a to do in the machine ID area? Machine ID. No, looks like we did get what we would expect. Come back to this, eh? Does that mean that our native version doesn't yield the same response? Oh no, it does. Get volume information. The comeback to this was about us doing something extra to try and hide the P invoking. Okay, so that's fine. We've implemented show mount I should say. RM, PWD, move files, list files, get working, print local working. Yeah, that's the same as LPWD. CP, checksum, we've done the checksum stuff, we've done the CD stuff. Have we done the catting of files? We have, haven't we? So bin... Yeah, so cat process channel.cs. Why doesn't that work? We did actually notice this last time, didn't we? Hey. Yes, Rastamouse, we said P invoke. Hey, serializing, how's it going? How are you, mate? So fs stat, then ls, then stat, then open. That's right. We were trying to figure out why cat didn't work. Hey, let's do that. Actually, yeah, let's do it in a separate screen. Metasploit framework. rep-r. Command cat in lib. Okay. Command cat. Oops. Righto, so it does a stat, then it tries to... look at that. RB. I should use ag. I was thinking exactly that. All of a sudden the beeps are back. Can you hear that? Thought I got rid of those beeps. Okay, so I think maybe this RB is what might be killing us. Let's quickly check. Okay, when we load the file channels, man, have we Solution Explorer? Here we go. File channel create. Yeah, here we go. See, we need to support single cases as well. So we'll do that for all of these. And we'll rebuild. Yeah, not RVB. Go figure. These modes are ridiculous. So it's saying read existing. This should solve that problem though. Okay, let's go back over here. We should just be able to cat it straight away. No? Why did that not work? Okay, so we get the file path. And file mode. Does it open? Yes, it does. Okay, so we create a new channel and we say we want to manage it and we return the channel ID. Set the response to success and return continue. And then we dispatch the packet. And we carry on. So immediately after that open, I would have expected a read call. So let's do that again. Channel open operation failed. Is that because we have channels open? No, we don't. Isn't that interesting? So this is a little bit confusing to me, to be honest. It'd be cool if you could use regex on switch statements. Ha! Yes, it would. You could simulate it, but it would be dirty, I think. Where are we? Okay, interpreter. It's not in here, is it? It's not where we are. We are in test console. Ah, no! No! That was a fat finger, which I hate. Please don't touch any of my projects. No. No. Lows. How annoying. Bin debug. Yeah, so it's definitely got content. It's definitely there. But for some reason, we don't see a read call. Tell, write internal, read internal. So this should be invoked, right? This read internal. And going back over here, there's a base channel type here that calls read internal when read gets invoked. The thing is that we don't actually see a read call in here, do we? Operation failed. Why is that failing? I'm actually really hot. Hang on a sec. Gotta remove the Unicorn hoodie, which is clearly doing its job. It's the multiple layers and the tea. How are my arms? I'm not going to lift them up because they are a little bit on the veiny side. Nah, no guns. No guns. I know. For those people who are lacking context, I had severe climbing pump. And I posted to a couple of people just to show how pumped my arms were when I finished. And like when I get hot, the veins in my arms pop out a bit, and when I get pumped on the wall, the same thing happens, and yeah, it was pretty insane. Anyway, let's focus on the job at hand. Why is it that we can't open this channel? What is the problem? Let's try it again. So clearly we're doing something wrong here. Okay. So we've got a catch in here, and it's... Are we specifying... We're specifying read, open. It should just work. So what we're going to have to do here, just for the sake of debugging, let's just rebuild this. That's going to be system. In fact, I'm going to type system.exception here because I will remove it afterwards. Madman behind wheel. Hello, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Thank you, Serializing, for sharing what we're doing. Benzi's coding gets me pumped. Alright, so this should work, right? We have this working. And nothing happens. And then the second time we do it, it fails. Oh no, that worked as well. Why did that work as well? It's because the channel is being closed. Okay, so let's hold it open. Let's hold it open for too long and wait for the call on the other side to time out. And when that's timed out, there you go, that timed out. I'm guessing it's going to fail now. Let's have a look. There we go. Why is that? Come on. The process cannot blah because it's being used by another process. Okay, so when it times out, it's not happy. But it's actually being used by us. So the question is, do we currently have channels in our channel manager? Yes, we do. Channel manager, active channels 1, and it's a file channel. Okay, so that makes a little bit of sense. But the thing is, we didn't actually. Maybe what we should do is use this and specify file share. I would argue that if we're opening for read, we should allow future things to open for read as well. Yeah. Do you check the channel each time you make the request? Now, the thing with the channel in this context is that I was going very slow, and so we maintain a reference to the channel locally. But this poses an interesting little potential race condition problem here, is that how do we make sure that we flush out channels that haven't been registered? I guess we can't, and we could probably simulate that problem regardless of the Meterpreter that we're implementing. So I think I might just leave it for now. Doesn't really answer the question with regards to catting, right? Until, okay, maybe this is it here. So when it calls EOF, we should probably see that here. Let's just watch that again. I'll get rid of all the breakpoints. Sessions and cat. Okay, so core channel EOF. So clearly we are checking EOF here. Do we have a file channel overload for is EOF? Okay, so here we're clearly doing something wrong in this EOF. In this, at least in this context, we are. So let's see, what is this? Yeah, where we are in the actual current stream. Okay, so let's just see what this does. Did that actually do anything? That's interesting, isn't it? I don't think it did. Is EOF. Is this where we ended up? Whoa, 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 don't do that to me. Sorry. Look at that. We're not even... have I not even hooked it in? Is that the problem? I'll bet you that's it. So we've created this is EOF, but it's not actually being used anywhere. Let's have a look. Okay, so here we go. It is channel is EOF. Let's make sure we at least get here. Oh man. Sorry, I keep fat fingering and clearly something's going on with the... No, that's not even... There you go. It's not even in there. What a goose. So we do need to wire that in. So, channel EOF. This dot channel is EOF. So I'm going to blame Rasta Mouse for that. Because I can. Someone clearly let me make that mistake, and I blame you. Oh boy, that's it's pretty rough, isn't it? Okay, we have is FEOF, and now it's actually being called, and we are actually able to cat stuff. Yeah, see, totally Rasta Mouse. Wow. Man, Bitwise, you are a legend. Thank you very much for gifting the old subs. Tacky, UK, this is painstaking. It is. It is. You should have been here for the first 37 of these, sorry, 36 of these streams. It was a little more painful. But you know, we're getting there. Anyway, that's good. I'm glad that we've solved that problem. That was actually frustrating me a little bit. What happens when you cat a binary? Yeah, it looks messed up. Works though, so that's good. Now, if you were Tavis Ormandy, something would have crashed and you would have got shells. Yeah, it didn't. Hey, I'm pretty happy about that. Okay. Alright, with that in mind then, so we've got cat working. We all know that pgrep, pkill, ps, etc. Reboot is not something that I've implemented, I don't think. Shutdown's the remote. Sysinfo, we know we've sorted out. In fact, does sysinfo give us everything? Yeah, it does. Get PID. Get UID. Execute, we know works. We've got port forwards working. Did we finish the if config off? Yeah, we did. Interesting. Happy with that. Play. Play a waveform audio file. Yeah, that's true. I've forgotten about that command. Well, we might actually have a bit of a play with that in just a sec. I want to make sure that the other ones that are in here are actually working as well. Now, did we had upload working, didn't we? It's get systems. Hey Barney, I knew you were gonna show up. Maybe search is something that we haven't implemented. Search sf star.exe. Yeah, we haven't implemented search yet. And I think that's pretty much it. Set timeouts I know works. Sleep. Did we? Yeah, we did sleep. Done the transport related things. Oh yeah, we've done transport ads. Ah! There's another thing that we haven't done. Packet pivots. Yeah. I think we might do that next stream. Oh, what's going on? Shall I skip this song? Well, is that upsetting you? There we go. Alright. Let's do play. Let's see what play actually does. We need to pull a WAV file from somewhere. It's not Christmas time. Yeah, I hear. Alright, well let's see what play does. I'm gonna need to pull a WAV file from somewhere, which I'm gonna do on my host and then copy the link. So just bear with me a second. Unless someone's got a non-trolling WAV file, they would be happy to recommend. Free WAV file. Zap Splat. Download free sound effects. Let's have a look. Show me the sounds. I know this isn't on stream, but just bear with me. We can download donkey sounds. Explosions. Let's download an explosion. Big, powerful explosion. I wonder if you guys can hear this. It's not that big and not that powerful, actually. Did you hear that? How about internal explosion? Massive explosion with glass and debris, smash and fast. How about this one? Ooh. There we go. That one actually made a bit of noise. Let's pull that one down. Oh, I can't pull down. I can pull down the MP3, but I can't pull down the WAV file. That's upsetting. That's funny. Let's have a look. Oh, we've got some action sound effects. And we've got some... What do we got? Action sound effects. Banging and hitting sounds? No. Fighting... See? The old fighting and all that sort of stuff, really not a fan of right this very second. Maybe we can pick up something like... Where are we? Let me show you. See, the thing is, I want you guys to be able to hear it. That's kind of why I'm doing it on my desktop. I might be able to do it directly in here. This is what I'm looking at, by the way. No, I don't. I probably do, but let's have a look. Radio, nature, weather, earthquakes, storms, lightning. Technically, there are no lightning sounds, so let's go to thunder sounds. Is it playing? Maybe I don't have sound in this virtual machine. Ready? That does actually have thunder. Can you hear it? This is actually a very long and drawn out wave file. And? Ooh. This better not be a troll. Batman Begins.
I'm Batman.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. What about this one?
That's your nocturnal.
That's maybe. Even for billionaire playboys. 3 o'clock is pushing.
Alright, let's do the Batman one. Okay, can I download this? Here we go. I can download that one. Righto, so... Just bear with me a sec. Copy that. Wonder if I can just get that puppy into... Oh. Need the clipboard to work. It's just, you know, Linux, man. There we go. Batman.wav. Please tell me it's a WAV file. Okay. It does say MPEG layer 3. Anyway, let's see what happens. Turn that down in my ears a little bit. Okay. Can get rid of this. So when we say play, specify a path to an audio file. Okay, so you don't even give it parameters. You just go temp batman.wav. Okay. So what happened over here? Core channel open, unable to create type audio output. Isn't that fun? Next we configure ALSA. That would be the ultimate troll. Alright, so I would argue, I mean, yeah, clearly we've got a channel type that's missing, this audio output channel type. So let's see what the native version does. Let's go back to GitHub Metasploit payloads. I know we're going a little bit roundabout here, but let me just make sure that we're doing the right thing. Don't forget, we're going to do packet pivots next week. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and significantly easier here. Alright, so it's part of standard API, so that's good to know. Let's have a look though what it actually does. So it's got like a little streaming thing going on. Audio channel write and audio channel close. So it doesn't support reading, which makes perfect sense at this stage. So let's just open that tab and righto, so what do we do? We've got this audio context. We don't seem to be doing much other than write supply data to the audio buffer. Okay. So we just malloc or realloc depending on stuff. Ah, would you look at that? Okay. Yeah, see that? Better run. Context joke. Tom, you should share that. Explain what's going on there. Okay, so a quick scan of this code basically says to me that all we are doing is we're buffering the audio in memory, and once that audio is fully buffered and we close the audio channel, we then play the sound using this sound play sound function. So what we need to do is .NET play sound. So how do you play a sound in C#? Let's have a look. We've got this sound player, system.media.soundplayer. System.media.soundplayer. This is the kind of thing that should make things significantly easier. Okay, so sound player, blah blah blah, player load completed. Listen for the sound location change. No, we don't need any of that. All we need to do is play a noise. Okay, so this is where they choose the file that they want. Report status, yeah, who cares about that? We shouldn't need a UI component to do this. Playing a WAV file synchronously. Play sound from resource. Oh, this is interesting. Sound player, you can just give it a stream. You beauty. That should be pretty easy to do then, hey? Alright. Let's hit stop. Now we need to register in standard API plugin that we have another type of channel that we're interested in. It was audio output. Audio output. Channel dot ctc. We're going to go audio output. And I'm going to be specific because right now we don't have the ability to do anything other than output audio, so I'm not just going to call it audio channel, it's going to be an audio output channel. Yeah? Can it play other sound file formats? I would say yes. But for now, we're just going to focus on the one. Alright, let's go back to .NET 3.5. Going to add a new item. That's going to be an audio output channel. So that should magically solve the registration problem. Yep. Public. Okay, let's take some notes from, say, the process channel where there is a create function. No, that's not the one I wanted. It's this one. Yeah, okay. Alright, so we're going to have the same mechanism here where we're going to have like an internal. We'll have a public static audio output channel. Create. Now this is expecting a certain type, right? So what does this one look like? That's basically what we need. Audio output channel, correct. Righto. So in the audio output channel, I assume all it's going to be doing is requesting a channel ID. Based on what we saw in here, when we open the channel, we just prepare stuff, and there's flags which we don't use. We just return a channel ID, and that's it. There's nothing magic going on here at all. It's literally, it sounds to me like it's just a mechanism to stream rather than anything else. Okay, so we should be able to go return a new audio output channel. This has to be a core channel, remember? So let's implement that. Let's put that down there. Constructors come first. Okay. And that we need to give that the core.channel manager. That needs to be bubbled down to the base. So pass that puppy down and we should be set and ready to go. So we're not really doing anything particularly crazy. But this is where we're going to be playing whatever it is that we've got. Now, we're going to have sound buffer equals new memory stream, because that's what we're going to store the data in. Okay, so let's set that as a field. We'll make it a read only, because we don't really need to do anything. Once it's created, it should basically say, oh, we have got another Christmas jam, haven't we? Sorry. I should get rid of those songs from this playlist. All right. Pass in the channel manager, and that's pretty much all we have to do. So every time we write to the channel, we need to basically shove the data that we receive into that sound buffer. So we should be able to override core channel write internal. Yeah. So we can go this dot sound buffer dot write. We're going to write data 0 bytes to write. Yeah. We're going to return packet result dot success, and we're going to set bytes written to bytes to write. And that should be it, right? Pretty easy. More bangers, less deranged elves. Agreed. So this is super simple, right? But at this point, this is where we need to basically say, see, we've got a memory stream here. All we need to do basically is reset the memory stream and say, can you please play with it? Okay, so what do we need? We need a media player. Soundplayer.play. Let's have a squiz. System.media. Ah, yes. System. Ooh, sound player. Controls play. Oh, hang on. There's one thing that I need to do before I forget. And that's add existing item. Channel audio as link. There we go. System media sound player. So if we go, whoops, new one of those, we should be able to give it a stream, which is the memory stream that we have. This dot sound buffer. Now I would assume that this sound player is disposable. It's serial as a component, so it's disposable. So we should be able to go using var player equals that player.play plays the WAV file using a new thread and loads the WAV file first. So it is just plain old WAV. Hang on just a minute. Let me go play sync. Plays the WAV file and loads the WAV. Okay. So I don't want that to be asynchronous because when it's done, I want to this dot sound buffer dot dispose. I want to dispose of the memory stream that we were using. Hang on a sec. So C# on Linux. No. No, this is C# on Windows. Isn't it a Microsoft thing? C# was designed by Microsoft, yes. So is it at home on Linux without messing about? I have no idea what that question means. I'm afraid you may have to explain what you're requesting there, Tacky, because I don't understand your question. I'm sorry. Anyway, before we continue, I'm just going to quickly check something and see whether or not this VM has a sound. Yeah, it does have a sound card. So it should actually work. I've got two virtual machines on screen right now. This is a Windows box. This is a Linux box. And when we kick off a session, the Windows box runs the CLR Meterpreter, which connects to the Linux box, and we control the session on the Windows box from the Linux box. So all the C# code is running on a Windows machine. Yep. You can use, there's a couple of compilers now on Linux. There's .NET Core and there's Mono. Both of those are C# compilers that will compile to a CLS compliant binary of some kind. Anyway, let's see if this actually creates the stuffs. And what I'll do, check this out. This was muted. So let's put this on high. Did you hear that little brum sound? Should have heard that. Yeah, no worries. Keep firing the questions if things don't make sense. That's what this is all about. Brum. Yes, heard it. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's do this again. Sessions -C, capital C, play temp batman.wav. Ooh, something broke. The wave header is corrupt. So it's not actually a wave file that I've downloaded. Isn't that typical? Free web file download Batman. Why is everything in MP3? I want just a .wav. Boo, I know, right? I don't want to go through the pain of just, converting stuff. I just want to download a WAV file. It can't be that bad, surely. And not a WAV file that's going to own me. Virus.wav.exe. Download. See, these WAV sources are not WAV sources. Just give me a WAV. Don't understand. I'm so confused. Everything claims to be a WAV file, but it doesn't make sense. What is this one? We've got a Batman theme.
Tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel.
Hey, let's use that. Okay. Let's do that, yeah? Okay. Bat time x.wav. Copy. Okay. Ooh, did I kill it? Yeah, it killed it. Oh, it's because I'm debugging. Okay. So we should be able to do this. The wave header is corrupt. Really? That's so upsetting. So one would assume maybe it's not actually writing stuff that we would expect it to. Oh, I know what's wrong. I know exactly what's wrong. We need to go this.soundBuffer dot. We need to point to the beginning of the buffer again. So we need to go seek 0 seek origin dot begin. Yeah, it's probably an MP3. That'll probably, I think that's what we need to do. So as we're writing to our memory buffer, we're going all the way through. We say, hey, we want to use this memory buffer now for you to read from, but we need to point it back at the beginning of the buffer so that the web file can play. Does that make sense? Yeah, just edit the magic bytes. Ready? Ooh, there we go.
Tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah! This is what hacking software is all about. That's hilarious. Okay, so that means I should be able to do the other Batman WAV file. Maybe it was actually a WAV. Let's get rid of breakpoints though. Make sure that it just plays. Oh, really? Sound API only supports playing PCM WAV file. Okay, so the other one wasn't. So what we'll probably have to do, regardless, is try the Pokemon pattern again. Sound file might be invalid. So bail out quietly. Horrible, eh? Play command needs to be 100% volume and unmute. Yeah, I was thinking the same. I don't think that's what the native one does, and we should be honorable. So when we call audio channel close, we literally call, look, we just say play the sound. Yeah. I find that rather amusing. I kind of wish that we'd done this before. It's hilarious. Okay, so now that we've solved all of the important problems and that we are now able to play Batman noises out of an owned victim machine, we can go back to the less important things. We've still got an hour, so that's pretty cool. I can stop watching the streams now. Exactly. That's right. We've peaked. We've peaked. Okay. This was super simple, like, to be honest. It would be cool if we could, like, abstract a channel into a stream. Do you know what I mean? I wonder if that's... Wonder if we could kind of implement channels as a stream that is readable. And then this could actually play as the data comes in on the stream. Do you know what I'm saying? So we could basically have this audio channel as it is. But when we create, we can have an audio output stream which taps into the channel. And it just implements the appropriate parts of the streaming sort of interface, so that we could actually say player, like when we create the sound player, we can pass in a reference to our own special stream type that just reads off the channel. Does that sound like over engineering to you? It would be problematic on a slow link, yeah. It would take you back to the good old days where everything buffered. We're all into a bit of nostalgia, aren't we? How about this one?
You filthy criminals.
Yeah, what a great way of that is. That's true. I agree. Okay, I'm not going to over-engineer. I'll move on. Maybe we should start working on packet pivots now. What do you guys think? The interesting thing about packet pivots is that we've got a bunch of stuff that we need to implement. Okay, so packet pivots work when we have 2 extra features added. I still want to see volume. Yeah, well, I'm sure you could do volume control elsewhere. Oh, there's another thing actually you've reminded me of. We also need to implement railgun. Winamp skins. Hang on. Oh, I've got to play this. You ready?
Winamp. It really whips the llama's ass.
Ah, those were the days. Am I going to get like owned for copyright on YouTube for playing that? Probably. Watch the video on Vimeo. Best media player ever. Yeah, I reckon. So good. I'm going to get violated. I swear my video upload is just going to be shit canned by YouTube straight away. Alright, let's just quickly make sure this... We've got to do the important testing and make sure that this works perfectly in .NET 4. Did that not work? Ooh. Oh yeah, Batman WAV doesn't work. We need bat time.
Tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel.
There we go. That still works. Twitch has changed the music license stuff now as well, so you might get... Oh, really? No, that's a bit upsetting. Tacky. No, I will, when I'm doing the development and all this sort of stuff, everything that I do remains on my own machines in my own network. And the reason for that is because I guarantee that I am doing everything with the permission of that I have given myself. So while other people might be happy for me to just run code on their machines, I would much rather just keep everything self-contained and visible that it's internal, because that keeps the whingers at bay. And it's very clear that I'm keeping everything above the line. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, hey? So, I mean, I've got a Monster Cat Gold subscription and it's tapped into my Twitch channel, so I'm hoping that all the stuff that's being played is okay. But, I mean, these little sound bites, I would hope that that's not going to cause too many problems. Okay, anyway, as I was saying, there are 2 main components that we need in order to have packet pivots work correctly. The first thing is that we need a reverse... named pipe transport supported by Meterpreter. We need a stager that can do it as well, and we also need, excuse me, I've got an itchy nose, and we need the ability to support the name pipe server on the other end. Covered by fair use. tacky, but you can. Well, I mean, I could get you to run payloads for sure, and I could control your machine via this interface. But yes, I could do that, but we won't. New subscriber goal: get to have OJ run code on your machine. Maybe for the right Patreon tier. Since when do we copyright holders care about fair use? Yeah, I know. They exactly that. Yep. It's the thing is like it's impossible to do anything like that and have someone get away with it. Everyone just smacks everyone down. It's pretty sad that you can't muck around, have a bit of fun without copping a bit of shit for it. Okay. Yeah, so we need to implement a name pipe server, and we need to implement a name piped client, and we need all of the things to work that way. But you know what? What we can do is we can abuse the existing features of Meterpreter in native land in order to do this, right? Which is pretty cool, because the way that the name pipe pivot actually works, it doesn't really care at all about what implementation the client is. So when you say, I want to create a pivot, you say, I want a pivot of this type, of this architecture, and I want it listening on this named pipe, right? So let me show you what I mean. Is it still running? Yeah, it is. Sessions -1. So if you look at the help for pivots, basically you say, like right now, the only pivot type that we have is reverse named pipe is the only pivot type. Yeah. So you're saying, I'm going to add a pipe pivot. I'm going to listen here. This is the name of the pivot. This is the architecture and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So when you say pivot add, what you're saying is, in my current Meterpreter session, I want you to spin up a named pipe server, and that server needs to sit there and basically act as a listener, like MSF would act as a listener. And then from there, when a connection comes in, it's going to assume that the thing that's connecting is expecting the payload that is specified here. So what Metasploit actually does at this time is that it will generate a reverse named pipe stage. It will create it with this name baked in. It'll say, contact me on this host, and it'll have the architecture. It will generate that and send that payload up to Meterpreter. So Meterpreter has a copy of that sitting in memory, and it goes, okay, when I get a new connection, I'm going to serve that up, right? I'm going to serve that connection up. I'm going to say, here's your stage, and then from there, I'm going to shuffle the packets back and forth on my current connection, so that basically via SMB, the payload that is executing is able to talk through me back to MSF. Does that make sense? It's quite a complex little beast. But if, for example, I said pivot add, in fact, let's just copy this exact thing, right? So we'll see on this side. Where are we at? Core pivot add is the thing that it's sending in, and there's a bunch of crap that comes with that. So I say we start implementing this. Who's with me? It is a core feature as well, right? So bringing back the memories of when you first implemented name pipe pivots. Yeah, that was a pretty hair-raising thing. And I'm not going to lie, like doing that in native Windows is pretty awful. But the good thing about this is that it's actually not that bad. It was a pivotal moment. I see what you did there, Tom. It's not bad in .NET. We just want to make sure that we do the proper handling of bits and pieces. Now, bear in mind that this has to support things like TLD encryption. And so what has to happen as packets go back and forth is we need to look to see whether or not the session that's associated with a particular packet is intended for us. Yeah. Pivots. I haven't implemented pivots at all in the CLR, but I did mention it. Yeah, that's true. raster. Most people don't even know that this is a thing. So with a bit of luck, doing this will expose that. Now, it's going to be fair to say that we're probably not going to finish this implementation tonight. Okay? Just so you know. Just so you know. Alright, so what we're going to need to have is probably like some kind of pivot manager. I hate the word manager. It feels so enterprisey, but it is a manager for pivots. So that's basically what it's going to be called. So let's add a new class called a pivot manager. And again, let's make sure that we add this to, we're back out of standard API now, and we're back into Metserve. So we'll add an existing item. Metserve 3.5 pivot manager and add as link. Okay. Oh, hang on, what happened there? Did I do the right thing there? Yeah, I did. Okay, phew. Let's put that back to 3.5. Okay, so when we set up Metserve, we're going to need one of these. This dot pivot manager equals new pivot manager. Now we're probably going to need to pass in the dispatch packet, which is an action that takes a, yep. So store, that's going to take an action that is able to receive a packet. Whoop. Didn't mean to do that. And we'll set that to a read-only. No, that's not what I want. Using system, proto, initialize field, thank you. Okay, that's what I wanted. Pivot factory. No factories. Document and pull request. Yeah, I remember that. When I created the namepipe stuff, that was all back native. Any chance you could spend a minute going over that M variable thing for .NET from that tweet the other day? Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. Can we pencil that in for next stream? Because I'd like to have a play with that myself a little bit more, and then when I jump on stream I can say, hey, look at XYZ, and we can move through it fairly slowly. Fairly smoothly, rather than having me fumble around. But I'm super keen to do that. Yeah, we'll do that next stream. Remind me, leading up to next stream at Wolf, remind me that that's what we're going to do. Okay, so that should be done. Why is that complaining? Oh yeah, I've got to initialize read-only field. Okay, so we can do that with all of these, hey? Put all of those in as read-only. Now, command handler register. So what does the command handler do again? Oh yeah, passes in the plugin manager. Yep. We also need to be able to register in here. Plugin manager, register function. Core pivot add. Now here, I'm thinking of just farming this straight off. What does it need? Request response. Yeah. Let's do this. We'll just put it straight in here because pretty much plugin manager. I think we'll just pass the plugin manager in at the same time and delegate the responsibility to this itself. I think that would make the most sense, don't you think? So register server commands, channel manager register commands. pivot manager register commands. So let's steal that. Shove it in here. And then we'll have a private inline process transport remove. So this will be a pivot add function. Oops, return, continue. So we'll just do that for now. And then here we can take a copy of this. Excuse me. This will be core pivot add. This dot pivot add. Okay, so now we're at the point where we should be able to see what's going to get sent through when someone requests a pivot to be added. Okay. Just more typical Adam Chester Black Magic. Yeah, that was a really good find. Hey, have you tried Ghidra? How does it compare to IDA? I have not dived into Ghidra anywhere near enough to be able to form a reasonable opinion, to be perfectly frank. And I think it's just a lack of familiarity thing for me. But I genuinely think that... oh, Tina's just hosted me. Thank you, Tina. I think that like Ghidra, by the looks, from the little bit of playing that I've had and from what other people have said, is a fantastic tool, particularly given that it's free and that it's got the decompiler and everything baked in. That's pretty sweet. Tina, I haven't seen you for ages. I hope all is well in your neck of the woods and that you're staying safe during these rather turbulent times. Thank you for hosting. Lovely to see your name again on stream. I very much appreciate it as always, mate. Thank you. Let's see what happens when we run it. So I'm going to do this as a session-c pivot add. Okay. Let's have a look at the request. That's fantastic. All right, so what we got here, we have this pivot name pipe name. So MSF pipe is what we sent in. Pivot E. I've obviously fat fingered that. Pivot stage data and pivot stage data len. Now this stage data len we're not going to use, and that will actually go away in a future pull request when it's landed. And here we've got this pivot ID, which is another GUID. I'm doing alright, thanks for asking. I hope the same for you. Yeah, mate, I have nothing but first world problems. I honestly can't complain. As I've said publicly on a number of occasions, I am a... what am I? I'm a middle-aged white, CIS-gendered tech male. I am the least repressed species in the history of the Earth. I have no reason to complain about my life. And that privilege is thrown in my face a lot when I see what's going on in other parts of the planet, and that, you know, that's sad. It's sad. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the stream anyway. But yep, no, I'm good. Thank you for asking. Okay, so first of all, we need to get rid of this pivot because it should be pivot, not pivot. So we're going to get rid of these two E's. Take a copy of that, shove it in Notepad. Let's get rid of the E's and make sure that we do things correctly. Pivot named pipe name. Okay. Righto, so we basically have a pipe name. That's what that's going to be. So pipe name equals request.tlvs dot try get, no, can never remember what it's called. Hello Asaf, how's it going? Try get TLV value as string, I think is what I'm looking for. There it is. TLV type dot pivot name pipe name. Now what I'll do is put a note here to say to do when we support more pivot types. Don't assume this is a named pipe. Let's just leave that there. Lady Love 2020, greetings! Thanks for jumping on stream. We are currently implementing named pipe pivoting in our new version of Meterpreter, and if you want to know what that is, that's the info just there. Okay. All right, so that's the pipe name. What else? Request ID, we don't need to worry about. Name pipe name. Pivot stage data. Okay, so okay, so the stage data equals remember the stage data is the generated stage for the pivot, so that's the native blob that is going to be used. So that'll be served up every time we get a new connection. Okay, so request.tlvs.try get TLV value as raw, TLV type dot pivot stage data. Now I'm not going to look at the length because we can infer that from the packet. And we've got a pivot ID. Pivot ID equals request.tlvs.try get TLV value as raw, TLV type pivot ID. Now the ID is just a GUID, and the point of that is so that we can reference that pivot on both sides so that we can know what's going to be terminated, etc. Malicious. Is it satisfying that I got asked for holds as a birthday present? Yes! Climbing holds are an excellent choice for a birthday present. So good. Budding little climbers are fantastic. Malicious. Yes. Malicious. Is it malicious? It's all about intent, really, isn't it? Maliciousness. Alright. That allows us to set up a new named pipe pivot. So given that we are hopefully down the track going to have more pivot types, it states it's a malicious program. What states it's a malicious program? Is that you Googling for the word Meterpreter? Oh yeah, because I actually said a malicious agent, yeah. My intent is to arm offensive security people with more tools to better highlight the risks that their clients face. That's my goal. That's my intent. That's what this is all about. And while doing this publicly, I am hoping that other people can understand how it all works. So everything is dual use. That's the problem, right? You can use a knife to cut bread. You can use a knife to hurt people. Is the knife bad? No, I know you were just playing Lady Love 2020. That's we know you were just playing. We know you're not being nasty or anything. But yeah, more than welcome to carry that on. Windows idiot question. After reading the wiki article on named pipes, they read like they're essentially a Windows equivalent of Unix domain stock. It's been in a specialized namespace. Am I way off? Nope. That's pretty much bang on. Pretty much bang on. It's a Windows specific version. Windows specific version of, Unixy sockets. So yeah, that's a perfect analogy in my humble opinion. But the only difference, I guess, in this context is that named pipes work over SMB. And this is why they're actually good, because in a Windows network, there's a lot of traffic that goes over SMB. So if you're sending traffic across SMB, chances are you're going to be able to move that traffic around because 445 tends to be open. Yeah. Cortana's malicious. Amen to that. Okay, so let's have a squiz. Now, we're going to have a bunch of different pivots. So I'm going to add a new folder. We're going to have a pivot, and we're going to add a class called a named pipe pivot. Now, I don't know what it's going to look like just yet. But I do know it's going to be a pivot. hate this because I create a pivot namespace by doing this, but I actually want something called a pivot as well. So I might just, I don't know, public class pivot. Public, it should be abstract because I don't want to create just a pivot by itself. Let's move that to there. Okay. Because what I want to be able to do is create basically a base type of pivot. I'm going to have a private read-only dictionary. Ugh, that's annoying. Private read-only generic collections, and we're going to have a GUID to a pivot. There we go. Pivots. And we're going to have this dot pivots equals new, whatever that is. Righto, so we're going to create what will be a named pipe pivot. Pivot equals new pivot dot name pipe pivot. We're going to give it all the things. We'll give it the pipe name, stage data. So we should give it the pivot ID first. But I'm actually going to parse that as a GUID. GUID.parse. We should be able to. I'm assuming we can read that as a byte array. Come on. Come on, IntelliSense. Talk to me. GUID.parse. This is annoying. Ah, okay, right. Can't parse it in .NET 3. Pivot. Maybe we can go convert to. Is there a to GUID? There isn't, is there? Okay, let's ask the internet. .NET 3.5. Parse. Oh, I can't type. GUID byte array. I don't want 2 byte array. I want. There isn't. In fact, Squad is the right one. You just need to ensure. Huh? Ah, is there a constructor for it? New GUID. Ah. That's Raster's fault again. Pivot ID equals. There we go. That's what I want. Now I teach and corrupt the minds of our youth. That is your job. I love how they didn't exactly mention the constructor. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. Okay, so we're going to take a GUID, which is the pivot ID, and we're going to pass that down to the pivot. Okay, and then we're going to, what are we taking in here? Taking the pipe name and the stage data. String pipe name, byte array, stage data. Okay. Back to pivot, which we haven't opened. Okay, so we need a constructor for this. This is going to have a GUID pivot ID. Using system, we're going to make a property. And that's going to be a private set as well. Which I assume is the default when you only specify it that way. Siri and Google Assistant. Ooh, they're all terrible. Now there will be more methods that I will add to this abstract class, but right now I'm just going to leave it like that. Now when we create this, we're going to have what's going to be a named pipe. I think it's this named pipe server. Can't remember. Or maybe it's just a, is it pipe? I'm going to look at some documentation in a minute because I can't remember what it is. Okay, so .NET named pipe server. Pipe operations, examples of named pipes. Into pipes provide into process. Yes, we know. Here we go. Well, let's have a look. Server thread. So we've got this named pipe server stream. Oh, would you look at that? So we can spin this off as a separate thread if we want to. Pipe server wait for connection. So that must be a blocking. Named pipe server stream. Named pipe server stream. There we go. Okay, so this dot server stream. Can't type again. Equals new. So we've got to give it the pipe name. Pipe direction. We're going to assume it's in out. Max number of server instances. So I think it's probably fair to say that we really only want one. Hang on a second. Initialize a new instance of blah with the specified pipe name, pipe direction, maximum number of server instances. The maximum number of server instances that share the same name. Yeah, I would say one. Let's make that a field, which is read only. Find my phone, my fave command. Implementing them. I hate name. Yeah, like name pipes are awful. And I think that I don't know. I don't feel like they were very well designed. What other parameters can we give it? Safe pipe ham. Yeah, no, let's not worry about that. Okay, so this dot server stream dot. Can we begin? Here we go. Begin wait for connection. That's what I want. We want to do the async thing, right? Because every time we receive a new client, we're going to convert that into a client that we then handle separately. And from there, we want to kick off again, right? So we go private void, wait for connection. So this is going to be this dot server stream dot begin wait for connection. Async callback. Is there a begin wait for connection here? There isn't, is there? Start read, start right. Oh, that's not what I want. Just give me a reference directly to the named pipe server stream. I want to see what that type looks like. Methods, begin, wait for connection. So an async callback is just a classic, yeah, okay. Takes an async result, returns void. Okay, private void, connection, we'll call it handle connection, async result. Okay, so this we're going to give, we're not going to pass any context in because we have it all wrapped up in the class itself, right? So handle connection null. Modern day home assistant really help. For an ignorant Unixy guy, when would you reach for name pipe over an IP socket? It's exactly the same question as when would you use a Unix domain socket over a standard TCP socket. The questions are kind of the same. The only thing that's worth considering, Tom, is that named pipes all happen over SMB. And so you kind of have your traffic blend into all of the Windowsy SMB traffic that gets thrown around the network. So when would I use it? Well, in an environment where 445 is open and SMB traffic is going everywhere, it's an ideal way to throw packets around an internal network without actually having to create a new socket listener somewhere and have that connect back. I'm sure there are other details. I mean, there's a bunch of security stuff that goes around it. Like you need to be able to auth correctly with your credentials to that endpoint. So you basically can say, I want this named pipe to only be accessible to this subset of users. And so when people connect to you over SMB, then they say, hey, I am OJ of this domain, and you auth using your like NTLM hashing and all that other stuff that happens over SMB, and through that permission model, you can basically reject people from connecting to your named pipe. But yeah, hiding the traffic in SMB traffic is a biggie. Did named pipes exist in all the SMB before it had over the wire? Yeah, I think named pipes have been around for a very long time, but I'm not an expert. There might be some people on stream who know a little bit more about that than I do. So yeah. And wait for connection. So I'm guessing that can throw exceptions. Yep. Try. Catch. We'll just leave it empty for now, but we'll come back to that. Interesting to see the name pipe stuff go over the wire in clear text. Yeah. Yeah, well, the stage goes over the wire in clear text. So I don't have the means right now to handle a stageless connection across this. But that's pretty easy to implement. Also keep down the amount of machines reaching out for the network. Yeah, that's a biggie. That is a biggie. Thank you, Gomboss. I can't believe I didn't mention that. But yeah, if you've got a bunch of things pivoting through the one entry point, then all of the traffic for all of those sessions goes through one session rather than having thousands of machines calling out to a dodgy domain or something similar. Right, so what I'm going to do at this point is for every named pipe, we have this client. We're going to have a client come in. And so, actually, this is an interesting point, right? This is interesting because create the delegate that process results based on user requests. No, we don't care about that. Where was that other one that we were looking at? Here. So we wait for the connection. Read the request from the client. Once the client has written to the pipe, its security token will be available. Read file stream. Pipe server.run as client. Okay, display the name of the user impersonating. Okay, right. So the pipe server then becomes... Okay. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So what we'll need to do instead is store the pipe name, because we're going to have to create a new server every time. That's right. That's right. I remember now. Named pipes are actually really awful. And the reason why I say that is because when you create a server, you don't get a client and then farm a client off and keep listening on the server. The server becomes the client. So if you want to listen again, you've got to fire up another listener in the same way that you did before. Okay, but that's okay. We have the ways. Okay, so we've got var server equals new, and then we'll pass that in like so. We need a read-only field. Okay. So server. Begin wait for connection. Direction in out. Actually, hang on. So if we say that there's only one of these, does that mean when a client is active? Yeah, that's not going to work. We'll allow as many as we're allowed. So, I should have asked this ages ago, but why are you implementing in C#? So, civilized, there was the first 2 streams that we did, we talked about the rationale behind why, and there's quite a bit of discussion around that in that stream. So if you're bored, go and look at the first 2 streams. They're 2 hours each. We don't write any code. We literally talk about what it is we're going to do and why we're going to do it. But to give you a very, very condensed version, the shelf life of Meterpreter will extend having a C#/.NET version that can run not only on standard Windows boxes now, but can run sort of natively as .NET applications inside things like IIS, or when you abuse a deserialization vulnerability, you don't want to have to necessarily inject native code to get a Meterp session running. You'd like to be able to just pass off a stager that kicks off a .NET version, and it's just a little bit lower key and less obvious from an AV/EDR point of view when you're running .NET code instead of, you know, creating a thread from native shellcode directly in your .NET process. So I see that as a bit more of a future for Meterp, being able to have a proper .NET one. But there were 2 other reasons why I was doing this. One is I wanted security people to understand that software development is actually a really hard thing to do. And you know, if you bash out a Python script, it doesn't mean you know Python and that you know what it means to support a production system. And the other thing I wanted people to understand is that Metasploit and Meterpreter are pretty complex beasts, and I kind of wanted to uncover the guts of it so people can see how it all works, how it all strings together, what it means, and to go and build a new component to existing solutions like MSF comes with a bunch of constraints. And so you can't just go, for example, I'm going to use protocol buffers instead, or message pack for my encoding. You can't, because you're still talking to Metasploit, and Metasploit doesn't use any of those things. Tacky UK, Java Meterpreter already exists. Already exists. It's the bane of my existence. Equals name. Okay, so does that answer your question, Civ? Okay, we're gonna need result dot state, async state. Okay. Server dot end wait for connection. Okay, so now we've kind of got this compartmentalized one. And then when things kind of go the way we want to, we go wait for connection again, and that will kick off a new server. Did I write the Java one? No, the Java one's existed for quite some time, but I have maintained it, and I've extended it, that sort of thing. But there are other people who contribute to the Java Meterpreter. The primary maintainer, I would say, is Tim Wright. And he helps me out a lot when I'm bastardizing the code, and he helps me test and make sure it works on different Java versions and things like that. So yeah, we did speak about how we're going to architect this thing. So it's all in there. Okay, so display the name. What is this run as client? What does run as client do? Server.run as client calls a delegate while impersonating the client. The delegate that specifies the method to call. Okay. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Do all the examples do that? We don't necessarily want to do that though, do we? pipe operations. How to use anonymous pipes for local inter-process comms. We're not worried about that. Oh, look at this. Anonymous pipes provide inter-process kernel local, which we don't want. We don't want anonymous, we want named. Yeah, it's pretty cool. This is what we were looking at before, hey? Yeah. Okay, so once we get that pipe server connection, we don't necessarily have to go run as client, right? But file reader.start, I'm guessing that's a IO stream is what we were given. Alright, let's see what is hanging off this. Okay, read position, length is connected, etc. Get impersonation, username. So we are going to need, we'll probably need to just create like a named pipe. So that's like a pivot. We need to have like a name pipe session handler almost, if that makes sense. Because the session handler will hang off. What will it hang off? When a name pipe comes in, when a pivot comes in. Actually, the pivot is the thing that's listening. But even when the pivot listener goes away, the existing connections will continue to function. And we need to be able to map from... Yeah, that's what I need to do. So this named pipe pivot thing here needs to basically be... Yeah, it needs to be treated like a service so that it can be killed by the pivot manager. But every time we get a connection coming in, we need to make sure that that new connection is registered with the manager as a active pivot, so that when packets get shuffled, we can map between the identity of the session and the thing that it's pivoting through. Does it? Get back in your box, Nelson. Alright, so this does need to sort of maintain itself as a server, but I also want the pivot manager. See how it's got this pivots, that each of these pivots, I think we need to work on our naming just a little bit more, because the notion of an active pivot and a pivot listener are not the same thing. Thank you for the follow, Taki. So maybe what I should do is change this to, instead of it being a pivot, it should be a pivot listener. Because the listener is not the same as the actual pivot. If that makes sense. Or am I trying to conflate things just a little? Maybe I am. I need to do a better job of explaining what's going on in my head. Someone is anonymously gifting. Whoever you are, that's very kind. Thank you for the anonymous gifting. Okay, so just give me a second to think, because I want to make sure that I get this right. I'm going to rename this. Rename. Pivot. Ah, no. This is what happens when you try and use a Vim plugin at the same time. Pivot listener. Pivot. Named pipe pivot listener. Oh, look at that. It would just do it for me. That's better. Okay, so this, I might just call this just ID instead, because it is not really a pivot ID, it's a pivot listener ID. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay, that makes a little bit more sense to me. I know it sounds really picky, but I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. So this is a pivot listeners. Alright, so when we create that named pipe pivot listener, we're going to have this dot pivot listeners dot add listener dot ID listener. So we're going to be able to map the ID to the listener. We're listening to you, Tacky. Okay, while I don't know some other smart things. Okay, everything is about risk appetite management. That's true. Righto, so don't need that anymore, do I? Solves that problem. And now I can get rid of it here too. Pivot doesn't exist in core, really? Oh, you're right, it doesn't. So we need to add that folder of pivot, and then we need to add existing item from it. So 3.5 pivot. We need to add both of those as links, and that should then build. There we go. Alright, so we're at a point now where we can at least start adding the listener. But what we need to be able to do, because this listener needs to create an actual named pipe pivot. Right? And so the listener, once it's created, once it's actually got a pivot, it needs to create the pivot, get an identity for that pivot, and do some management of that pivot. Now, before we continue, let me just go to here. Now, if we venom this up, we want to go Windows Meterpreter, reverse named pipe. Now I'm pretty sure we go lhost is going to be 192.168.1. Oops. Config 136. Pipe name equals. Make this 64-bit actually. Pipe name equals MSF x64. Format exe output to scratch. Oh, sorry, stream. Net. And we'll call that pipe.exe. So here what we're doing is we're generating an executable stager. Ugh. I thought I was. Clearly I am not. LS, just a minute. LS modules, payloads, window single, stages, Windows x64, reverse named pipe. Is that what I called it? Windows x64. Oh, there's an R. There's an extra R in Meterpreter. Jeez. There we go. Now let's just copy that over. Okay, so this thing, when I run this, it will try to connect it to the named pipe of MSF x64. So that's what my listener needs to do. So we'll be doing that when we create the pivot, right? So let's not forget that, otherwise it's going to be pretty infuriating. MSF x64. Okay, so back here. Just gonna build that. Have another follow. Loggy log. Ah, subscribe. Thank you very much for the sub. That's very kind of you. Very much appreciate your support. Hello, welcome to the stream. I don't believe I've seen your name before. Apologies if you have, but if you have appeared and said g'day. But yeah, I haven't seen your name before. I'm glad you're on board. I am going to go a little bit longer tonight because I would like to get to a point where we can see things happening. So we'll see what happens when we get here. But first of all, we want to make sure that we are fully able to do all of the things that we are looking to do. So at this stage, we should have a name pipe listener when we create this pivot. Okay, so it's not going to be MSF pipe, it's going to be MSF x64. And L host needs to be 1.136. Needs to match. I did 3.6 instead of 1.36. Bizarre. So let's copy that over again. Get rid of that. SPC stream. Okay. Good night, Archbishop. Thanks for joining in, dude. I'm too ugly for Face ID. Righto. Okay, so let's set this listener up. Looked like it did a thing. Oh, operation failed. Really? Ah, it's because I didn't add a result. Now this is a really important thing actually. I need to make sure I do what the native stuff does. So let's see what it's expecting. Core pivot add. Request core pivot add is what implements this. Tacky, no mate, I'm based on the east coast of Australia. Request core pivot add name pipe. Yep, so clearly we only support that one type at the moment. I do hope we see more implementations of this sort of stuff. Okay, so what do? We create a response, name pipe name, pivot ID, stage data size. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to do this and make sure that we put the relevant bits in the name. That would be good. I'd forgotten about that. I won't scan my face, that's probably not private anyway, since there are public cameras there. Ain't that the truth? I actually love your Australian accent. Really? Thank you. That's lovely of you to say. There was talk of using Face ID to enter tube stations in London. Yeah, I heard about that too. That's pretty freaky. Okay, so when we return, all we do is just return an empty response by the sounds. We're not actually doing anything trickier on top of that. So yeah, we just need to make sure that we return a valid response. Okay, so that means, yeah, stop. Response.result equals success. Hopefully that means things will do what we want them to do. Aha, successfully created pipe pivot. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, just going to go to the sysinternals. Oh, actually, do I have it already on C drive? Tools. How do we view the named pipe stuff again? It's under Proc Explorer, isn't it? So, what I want to see is our process that we are now running, which is, where are we? Test console. Can we see the name pipe handles and stuff in here? Environment, job, assemblies, performance, strings. I didn't want that. I actually want to see the handles. What's the easiest way of viewing name pipes again? There is a tool in here in sysinternals, isn't there? Like a named pipe viewer. Pipe list. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I need to... Let's run this as admin, actually. CD tools, pipe list 64. Pipe find string MSF. Ah, would you look at that? So it can't find a named pipe. But that makes sense because I don't think we created a pipe with the right name. Because I needed to add the // stuff, right? Okay, so when we do the pipe name thing, so this will make this instead. Hang on, there was another value that we didn't use. Hey, I just had a realization that's rather horrifying. Name pipe server. Where is that? That's just dot. Okay, so we kind of ignore that as it comes in, which kind of makes sense because we just want to bind to anything. So we'll go string.format, and we'll make this do the @ thing so that we can get away with escapes. That's what it should be, right? Oh, it needs to be pipe or something written in pipe followed by that. Like so. This is waking me up a little bit. Okay. Why did we not hit a breakpoint? Oh, I didn't invoke it, that's why. That would be why.
I know your type.
There we go. Yeah, this is good. Max number of server instances must be either be a value between 1 to 54 or name pipe server stream max allowed server instances. Let's do that. Named pipe server stream dot max allowed blah. There we go. M3 M4T. Is that supposed to be Mamat? I'm guessing Mamat. That's Mamat. Thank you for the follow. Very kind. Alright, let's let that ripper run again. And what happened now? Pipe is not opened in asynchronous mode. Ah, do I have to specify async mode? Really? Is there another overload that I need to specify? Pipe transmission mode. Initialize user max transmission mode. That's definitely going to be that. Pipe options dot asynchronous. There we go. Makes way more sense, doesn't it? Okay, now we got here. So hopefully, when we run this pipe listener thing again, hey, there we go. Our pipe is listening. Now the real question is, do I absolutely need to call it that? Let's have a squiz again at what the examples are using, because maybe they actually put the pipe and whatnot in for us. So when we look at the examples, test pipe. Okay, so we don't need any of that stuff. The music bot's broken again, really? Oh yeah, you're right, it is. Yeah, far out. Seems impossible to keep that going, isn't it? Okay, so we don't need to do this string format stuff. So I'm just gonna... Yeah, I hadn't noticed that either. I don't know what's going on. I know. I don't... Because Streamlabs actually started doing that for me. I thought, great, it's doing exactly what I want it to do. And now it's not doing anything that I want it to do. Okay, let's kick that listener off again. Pivot created. And according to here... Okay, there we go. MSFX64. Righto, so what should happen now is if I run this binary, if everything wires up properly, I should see this breakpoint hit. Or this one. I didn't actually put a breakpoint here. Anyway, let's see what happens. Hopefully. Hey. There we go, we got a connection. How cool is that? So we can read, we can write. It's asynchronous, it's connected. That's a win, hey. So we've got the connection coming in on our named pipe. So the first thing that we need to do though is we basically need to create an actual named pipe pivot. And that pivot is going to handle all of the comms and all that magic stuff for us. So that's exciting. I'm happy to hear that. Right, so if we... Can we write? Yeah, we can just basically farm that connection off and carry on. But what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to associate this new pivot connection, name pipe pivot over a name pipe transport. Yeah, well, the name pipe thing implies the transport. The pivot implies that we, the Meterpreter session, are a pivot point. Nicely done. Thank you, Alexa. Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's nice to see that come in. Now, what I'll be super happy with in just a minute is when there's going to be something going on that when we create when a new session comes in, we need to be able to tell Metasploit about that new session. So if you have a look at what we do here, let me show you what I'm getting at. It's in here somewhere. There's a lot of code in here for the native version, and yes, I am guilty. Notify routine channel pick up its new connection. So you can see here it's trying to connects. This is where the magic client related stuff happens. Tries to read information from the pipe, and if all goes well, this is a connect, so tell MSF about it. So you see here we've got this other contextual related bits and pieces, and then we go create pipe server instance, which basically says go and listen again. Current list in the context says 3 points. Okay, don't worry about pivot trees. We'll talk about pivot trees another time. So at this point, what we're saying is if we have stage data, then we need to send it out. Oh, for Christ's sake. Hang on. Just a minute. Okay, let's see how this goes. Sorry about that. Stupid. I don't understand. I need to go and clean out the playlists or something. Alright, so here's what I'm talking about here, right? Core get session GUID. So we need to figure out if this is a new session without a session GUID, or if it's an old session that came out of nowhere, transport, switching, sleeping, etc. Create a packet that will request the GUID and track a random request ID to find the response later on. Now this is a problem. Okay, it's not a problem now, but it will be a problem for future work. Okay, so the reason why, sorry, I've got all kinds of conflicting things going on in my head. So right now this isn't a problem. So clearly what's happening here is we're trying to determine whether or not a new connection is coming in that has been staged, that needs to be staged, and hence it won't have a session GUID because session GUIDs are allocated by Metasploit, right? So, hey Taki, thanks for coming along. Appreciate the conversation. Hope to see you again. So the aim here is like when the new connection comes in, we need to stage the new thing, and a new GUID has to be set up / created / associated with this session, so that when Metasploit gets told, it can say, oh, by the way, I know that for packets that are associated with this session, we need to go through this other session instead. So it's basically saying, for this session, use this session's transport, and I will assume that it's going to route the packet on for us. So the session GUID thing is a way of identifying where things need to go. Plus, if a session reconnects back to the staged listener, it may already have its own session GUID, okay? And so we want to reuse that session GUID. And as you can see here, we're actually manufacturing our own session GUID request. Now the problem with this for future OJ's problem here is we want to move towards being able to force TLV encryption. So what I wanted to be able to do is say, I'm not going to talk to you at all unless we're negotiating TLV encryption, right? And that would have been really easy to do. However, in this case, I don't want to have to deal with encryption between the pivot and the thing that's pivoting through it, because ideally the pivot has literally no idea about the keys that are associated with either end of that connection, okay? But what we're saying here is to be able to get the session GUID, I need to be able to talk in plain text to the other end, which isn't good. So future OJ needs to be able to say, how am I going to get the session GUID out of the connection that's just come in? We might just need to do like a blank heartbeat or something like that instead, which literally has no data other than a header, because the header is always plain with some XOR encoding over the top. But anyway, the reason why I say that's a problem is because I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to have to deal with packet encryption across sessions at the pivot point. I don't want that to happen. I just want it to happen at either end like it does right now. So here, we don't support encryption at this point, but we do want to do the XOR thing. Okay, so when the new session comes in, we have a result. Spin up a new name pipe server instance to handle the next connection. All right. When this happens, this is all again native specific stuff. That's going to kick off the listener. Current listener context, which I've typoed. The listener stream bar. Time to stage. Okay, so this is where we are saying, I have a stage for you. So send it, so that the staging process can continue. I would assume at this point, maybe what we should do down the track is get Meterpreter to basically say, here's an empty packet that I can use as an identifier. And if that empty packet has a null GUID in it, then basically it's a new session. Hello, Ricky33, how's it going? So yeah, that's where I'm kind of at in that sort of headspace. But what's clear is that we need our name pipe listener to not only have an identifier, but we also need to have a reference to the packet dispatcher, because the packet dispatcher is going to be used by the client when going back and forth. But this is where it's going to get a little trickier, because the packet dispatcher as it currently stands is an action that takes a packet. And it has the responsibility of encrypting the packet using the current stuff. Now, what we want to be able to do, instead of just dispatching a packet, is we want to be able to say, I've got some data that I want you to write. I've got a block of bytes, and I want you to just send it for me. And then at the flip side, when it's received, we need to be able to go, this packet is associated with a session that isn't me. Let's go and look up the associated sessions in our pivot list. And once we find that session, we take those raw bytes and we just throw them straight down the neck. And that's basically how this is intended to work. So the whole idea of dispatching packets varies now, because the current session isn't responsible for encoding the packet. So you see here, we'll end up with a packet of some kind that isn't ours, right? So when we create packets, let's have a squiz. See how we've got this packet encryptor? That's what we say. We want to use this encryptor when we're dealing with packets. And so if we look at the function called dispatch packet, oh, can't type. Dispatch packet, you'll see it converts the packet to a raw using our current session GUID and our current encryptor, because that's our stuff. But we want to be able to say, create a take the packet that we've received and just route it without doing any encryption. So this whole idea of dispatching a packet needs to go away. We basically need to be able to dispatch a packet for the current session, and we also need to be able to dispatch a raw packet. Does that make sense? So what I'm thinking of doing, just as a little bit of foreseeing what's coming down the track, I'm going to create a new interface. And that interface is going to be a packet dispatching interface. So let's create a new item, which is an interface. I'm going to call it iPacketDispatcher. Now the reason why I'm doing this will become clear to you shortly. So it's going to be public. And the two things I want to be able to do is dispatch a packet, like what we're doing here. Okay, oops. We're going to be able to dispatch a packet. Okay. I also want to be able to dispatch bytes as they currently stand. Okay. So the assumption here is that when we call dispatch with a packet, it does the encryption, encoding, blah, blah. But if we call dispatch with just the raw bytes, nothing happens. It just pipes it straight down the wire. So now I'm going to say that this server is an iPacketDispatcher. Right? Now dispatch packet is going to be renamed to dispatch. Actually, you know what? I might just call it dispatch packet, just to make it very clear that that's what we're dispatching. Patchkit. Right? So we've got one instance of this thing. Where is it? Dispatch packet. It's there. And this needs to be public. Public void dispatch packet. And this is going to be the byte version. Right? Raw packet. Now, all we need to do is pipe it straight down the neck of the current transport. So then what we can do in here is this.dispatch packet, raw packet. So we're reusing the same bit of code. Now what this means is instead of passing dispatch, hang on, DISP packet. See this new channel manager? Instead of passing in this.dispatch packet and passing an action, we're going to give it an iPacketDispatcher. Hopefully that makes sense. Sticky66 is followed, thank you. So instead of passing in dispatch packet, we're just going to pass in this. And we're going to do the same with the plugin manager. iPacketDispatcher. We'll do the same here. The name kind of stays the same, but the usage will vary. Right? Is this making sense? Pivot Manager also needs, this is the magic one, right? Because it needs to be able to dispatch differently. Okay. So if we get rid of this, now when I build this, it's going to whinge because I'm going to, oh yeah, I need to be able to add that to the .NET 4 thing as well. .NET 4, add existing item, iPacketDispatcher, add as link. Righto. So see how we've got packet dispatcher and we're invoking it as if it's a function? We now need to call dispatch packet straight on it for all the existing stuff. Packet dispatcher.dispatch packet. Is there another one? Yep. Dispatch packet. So here's us using the existing route. But now we're at a point with the pivot manager that we can, when we create a pivot of a certain type, we can pass this dot packet dispatcher down because each of the name pipe pivots is also going to need a reference to that packet dispatcher. Okay. iPacketDispatcher. dispatcher. And we're going to bubble that straight down to the base as well, because we want to force everyone to use this dispatcher. Okay. So the pivot listener also needs it. Is this making sense? Packet dispatcher. Property. I guess I don't need private set. Maybe it's that by default now. Okay. I apologize, AJ, if I'm distracting you in your chat since I'm not a coach. No, absolutely not. Just listening. It's fascinating to see all this go behind the scenes and how you have to input every... Yep. Yeah, it's ridiculous. My goal is this, and as well, Civilized, if you're still there, this is also a big part of the reason why I built this. I want every single line of code for this app to be written on stream. And talking my way through it every step of the way is super important too. Okay, so now that we have this, we can create an actual name pipe pivot handler, so to speak. And the thing is that the pivot sort of manager needs to be able to associate packets that are for other sessions with a reference to the thing that knows how to send a packet down that session. So inside a pivot, we've got a pivot listener, and now I'm going to create a new class called a named pipe pivot. Now this will be of a generic sort of pivot type as well. When we create that, we need to go through the process of figuring out whether it's got a GUID, and that's effectively what the previous thing was doing. But anyway, let's just go with this. We're going to have a named pipe service stream, aren't we? Okay, so let's just have a field that does that. Okay, so now we need to deal with async communications. But the assumption here is we're also going to have some bytes that we may send, which is going to be the stage data. Okay, so if stage data is not null and stage data.length is greater than 0, then we want to be able to write writes a block of bytes to the current stream using data from a buffer. That's basically what we want to be able to do. Now, is there a way of doing this stuff asynchronously? I'm assuming not. Oh, begin right. Here we go. So we do need to make sure that we do some kind of async related comms here. Lord Squirrel, hey OJ, I just wanted to say that GoBuster is awesome. Thank you! Another happy customer, which is awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, look, I find it very useful, and there's a lot of people out there who also seem to find it useful, so that's a win. But yeah, I appreciate that feedback, mate. Thank you. Alright, let's go with begin right. And we're going to go stage data. Argus Tangenti, thank you for the follow. It's nice to have you on stream. Stage data. Okay, offset is 0. Count is going to be stage data.length. What is that? Okay, yeah, so we've got to go. The method to call when the asynchronous write operation is completed. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in the stage data, because I think when we end the write, it's going to tell us how many bytes actually got written, which is really what we want to see. Lady Love 2020 has followed. Thank you very much for the follow. That's kind of you. It's been great having you on. Appreciate the discussion and the questions. So call it this data written. Alright, so we're going to need a private void. Data written. Async result, which should come in the system namespace. Okay, so if we go this.server.end read result, not end read, end write. We also need to be able to indicate whether or not, like when data comes in on the pipe. So actually we'll look at that in just a minute. Now the kicker here is when we call end write, what does that do? Ends a pending asynchronous write request. What I'd like to know, what I need to determine is how many bytes were successfully written as part of that. There's got to be some way of determining based on the documentation. Righto, so if we go back here, wait for a connection is not what I wanted. Server is a namepipe server string. Begin write. There should be a begin write method. Ah, .NET Core, that's why. .NET Framework 3.5. Why is begin write not here? Ah, it's because it's a pipe stream. We need to look at the pipe stream object, which has a method called begin write. Anyone even have any tea left? No. Which is pretty sad, isn't it, really? Righto. Not supported in valid operation remarks. End write must be called once for every call to begin write. This can be done in the same code or in a callback that is passed. Use can write property to determine whether the pipe's current system supports write operations. If the pipe is closed from validating, blah, blah, blah. Yep, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about any of those things right now, but what is confusing is, okay, so the assumption is that it's going to write all the bytes. So maybe we don't need to do anything else. Yeah. So we'll leave it like that for now. But what we need to be able to do, based on the examples that we saw here, is how do we read asynchronously? Yeah. Which I think we can probably just do with the begin read and end read, right? This.server.begin read. Okay, so let's do this. Private void. We're going to have to do this in a loop, right? Private void. And we'll probably deal with memory streams until we know we've got a full packet. Because remember, we're a proxy/pivot point. So when data comes in off the wire, we need to look at the header of the stuff that's coming in. And when we look at the header, we kind of do a little bit of Yankee kind of packet munging stuff. And we say, hey, how long is this packet that's coming in off the wire? And then we've got to make sure that we read all of those bytes. And then once we've got them all, we then need to just pivot them straight on. Okay. So we'll call read async bar buffer equals new memory stream. I'm actually really enjoying this. Probably doesn't look like it, but I am. So we'll go this do that in here. Begin read. No, read async. Because we're happy for that to sit behind the scenes, right? So we're going to go begin read. Now we can't actually say... Maybe I'm going to need to associate two bits of information together because we basically need a read buffer. We're only going to handle it once. Okay, so we can have our own read buffer in here. Private read only byte. Read buffer. Now, how big? Short.max value? No. Use short.max value. Yeah, let's do that. Now, we also need to keep track of how many bytes of... actually, no, we don't, because the memory stream will do that. So, begin read. We are going to do this. We're going to pass in buffer at 0. Maximum number of bytes to read will be buffer dot. No, not buffer. Read buffer. This dot read buffer dot length. Okay. Data read. And we're going to pass buffer in, which is can basically be a new memory stream, so I can get rid of memory stream. I can get rid of the temporary variable here. And oops. Data read. This will be this dot read buffer. Okay, so when we read async, we're just going to reuse the buffer. Yeah. So when data is read, this is when it's going to get fun. Okay. Now, before we continue here, this name pipe pivot, we need to have an identifier for the pivot as well. So we are going to have to create a pivot type as well. Public class pivot, and that's going to be abstract. And we're going to go in our constructor. Equals GUID.new GUID. That's going to be a read-only property. Okay, let's put this in its own class. Fizzer. Why is it going into the .NET 4 area? That's annoying. Just hang on a minute. I'm sorry. Right, so both of these things need to be in here. Okay, let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. My bad. Pivot and pivot. Let's put these in here. And then in here we need to add the references. That's me being dumb. Existing item, let's pivot. There we go. That's better. Sorry about that. Okay, so the name pipe pivot is also going to need a reference to the I packet dispatcher. Now I think I'm going to bubble that down as well to the base pivot object, because everyone's going to need a reference to it, and this allows me to force the packet dispatcher at compile time to be passed in. Property. Make that, sorry, protected. Okay. So we can refer to packet dispatcher. Righto, so we end up with a new identity for this pivot. Now, we may need to modify this depending on things, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. So that ID is supposed to represent what is effectively the session identifier. Tea and wine are gone. Chocolate, there's still chocolate. There's a lot of chocolate here. We're coming up to 10:43. I've got to finish in 15 minutes. I can't do more than 3 hours. But we're getting to a point, I think, where we're very close, which is kind of exciting. Okay, so I'll worry about data red in just a minute. But what we need to be able to do when we create this namepipe pivot out of our pivot listener, which happens here, pivot equals new named pipe pivot, and we give it the packet dispatcher. That can be protected. Protected. Public doesn't need to be visible to the world. Server and this dot I don't have that stored, so that needs to be a field as well. Okay, now once we've created that pivot, remember we need to tell our parent pivot that a pivot's been created. So how are we going to do that? Maybe we can do that with an event. Maybe we can do that, yeah. So if we have a pivot listener, and here we have a public event, event handler, we might need to modify this a little bit. What can we put in event args? Yeah, just there's nothing really special in there, is there? Can't remember how to do custom events. .NET C# custom event args. Here we go. Okay, so you can declare delegate parameters. Static event, my event handler, event triggered. Okay, so that's what we need. We need a public delegate. We're going to say pivot added, and that's going to take a pivot event args void, sorry, public delegate void, public class pivot event args think that needs to be event args. Okay. Mistyped this, didn't I? Thank you. Is this up? Now in here, what I want to be able to do is have a reference to the pivot that has been created. Okay, so public. Let's just do the constructor thing. CDOR. Now we're going to take a pivot. Okay, and we're going to create a property out of that. Okay. Now what do we do? Static event. Public event. Event handler. Is it still? No. It can be my event handler. Pivot added handler. Pivot added. That's what I want. Okay, so then behind the scenes we can, because it's abstract, we need to have a protected fire pivot added and give it a reference to the pivot. And here we can go pivot, pivot added dot, is it just invoke? Yeah, invoke. New pivot event args pivot. Okay, so this is going to give us the means. Jeez, what am I doing? This is going to give us the means to fire event indicators that we've had something come in and the wiring needs to magically happen. Which, oops, don't know what I did there. Please tell me you didn't do it in here. Hey. Add existing item. Pivot event args. Add as link. Phew. Yeah, so apparently this is the new thing that says only fire the invoke if that isn't null, and does all the magic checking of nulls and thread safety and all that sort of stuff for you. That's what I believe to be the case anyway. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to do this is because when we have our pivot manager, excuse me, so we create a new pivot listener by this, right? But I also want to be able to go listener dot pivot added is this. Because then we can get a notification that a pivot has been added. And that would allow us to have a dictionary behind the scenes of actual pivots. Which will take exactly this. This dot pivots. Equals. So now we've got a dictionary of those as well, right? So when a pivot is added, it means that a connection has come in and we now have a client. So what I want to be able to do is go this dot pivot pivots args dot pivot dot id equals args dot pivot. So now we have the means to associate a session GUID, which we will sort out in a minute, with a session GUID with the actual pivoted session. Okay, And then what happens is that when we read a packet off the wire, off our transport, which is a tricky beast as a result of having pivots, we can go, hey, is this packet intended for us? Right, so watch this. I'll show you what I'm saying. Okay, so we need a transport. Configure, connect, disconnect, wrap, dispose, receive packet. So here you can see we're calling receive packet. When we call this packet, we do all of these things. Once we've got the header, this here you can see we're reading the header. Once we've got the header, we need to be able to say, okay, where are we? This bit here. Okay, so we've read the header and we're pulling things apart here and we're getting the sort of full length, so to speak. At this point we need to say, hey, is the GUID for the current session intended for us? Insolent, how you going, mate? Now the problem that we've got here is that this the packet encryptor probably needs to have a reference to the session identifier if it doesn't already, but we can worry about that another time. The other option is that we can specify like a static reference to what the current session ID is. But for now, what I'd like to do is just make sure that this stuff works. So pivot this now. And we need to get to the point as well where we're going to be able to sort of nest pivots, but that's a problem for another day. Alright, so let's see what happens when we do this. So we create a new named pipe pivot, and then we go fire, pivot added, pivot. Now we don't need to keep track of the pivots at this point because it's no longer our responsibility. And then we can just loop. Righto, let's see what happens. Make sure that it's still there. There you go. So that's correct. So when we fire this payload off, what do we see? Ooh, pivot added straight away. That's pretty interesting. Name pipe pivot. Hang on just a minute. I want to stop here. Let's kick that off again. Okay, so we're in here. Do we have stage data? Yes, we do. So then should have a breakpoint set here as well. Okay, so that wrote correctly, which means we would have seen information come in during the end read call. Int x equals, I love doing int x equals 0 and just hitting a breakpoint. Oops, that's not going to work. I need to build first. Okay, so this is when we prove that this information is going to come in, which we can do via this.server.endRead result. What does that give us? Bytes read equals, that tells us how many bytes have been written into our buffer. Jonel Venetsk. I can't speak. Thanks for the follow, Jonel. Let's see what happens now. So when the data comes in, we just want to shuffle that packet straight off. I know this song. Oops. Oh, did that actually kick off? I think I might have made a mistake. Crab Rave. Okay, begin read. And write. Yeah, that's not going to do anything at this stage because once we've sent the stage, we need to do a lot more. That's right, we need to do a lot more. So we need to keep track of the current state of things once we've actually written stage information. Because once we've written the stage, yeah, I know, and I am going to stop here. Once we've written the stage, we need to tell Metasploit about it. So then Metasploit can do the rest, such as staging standard API. Yeah, tell me about it. Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to pause it here. When we come back on stream, what we need to do is route, we need to tell Metasploit that a new session has come in, and then we need to handle the session GUID related stuff. So, yeah, there you go. That went for a little longer than expected, but it was totally worth it. I think it's kind of fun at least to have something done in the early days with the playing of audio for a bit of lulz. That was fun. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with today. I mean, I know I went an hour over what I had intended to time box things to, but I think it was worth diving into the namepipe pivot stuff a little bit more. Because I think this feature is super handy and should be used a lot more than it actually is. So, but yeah, as always, I'm very grateful for everybody's support, for tuning in and hanging out with me for as long as you do. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. Thanks as always. Head to bed, get some rest, and I'll see you guys on the next stream. If you have any questions, jump on Discord and fire away. I'm sure there are a lot of people in there that'd be happy to answer. But yeah, much appreciated. Have a great day wherever you may be. And as always, be good to each other.